Looking back on my wrestling career in high school, there was a few matches that stand out for different reasons. One of them was the one that was so distinct, I actually wrote my college essay on how badly I was getting beaten in this match. I was going up against this monstrous man-child. He outweighed me by probably close to 80 or 90 pounds and was just smothering me through this whole match. Just like getting like enveloped in all of the mass that this guy had. And the other half of the match, when I wasn't, just having him all on top of me, pushing me down, he literally was picking me up and flinging me around with my legs flying around off of the mat. It was a horrible feeling. And in the midst of all of the stuff that was going on in that match, my focus was definitely on defense. I hated where I was. I hated what was happening to me, but I couldn't risk it getting any worse than it already was. And so I would just kind of turtle down and kind of get myself in a little ball with my belly to the mat so that he couldn't get more points on me, and just let him just kind of put all of his weight and push down on me and try and roll me around. And then when he picked me up, I would just hold on to his head as hard as I could with my life depending on it. So that even as I flung around and heard this guy grunting and screaming at me to let go, I just would not budge off of his head. I just wished the whole time that things would be a little bit better for me. I felt that way a lot more times in my life, and probably you have too. We're in these places where we just cannot deal with all the stuff that's going on, and we wish things were better, like a marriage. It's not where I want it to be. Maybe you've reached the point where you're just polite roommates, or maybe you're going through life and neither of you have set goals that you agree on with each other, and you're just there. And you hoped it would be better, but you've got to protect what you already have. And so you kind of play defense and you get defensive in the midst of your marriage. So instead of approaching the other person and trying to make things better, you just try and protect what you have, because you can't lose that too. Or work drains the life from you. And so you don't go to start a new business. You don't go searching for another job, because what if they find out that's what you're doing? It can make it even worse. They could just fire you right there, and it's too risky. So even though you're not where you want to be and things are broken where you are, you can't risk doing something better. You can't risk seeing something else happen. You have to protect what you have right now. The places where we long for something more, whether they're in our marriage or our work or even our relationship with God, these places are everywhere. And it is natural to be defensive. When things are overwhelming, when it seems like you don't have enough strength to get by on your own, when you can't imagine losing the little bit that you do have, we get defensive. And so maybe it is broken, maybe it's inadequate, maybe it's all of these things we don't like, but at least it's familiar and at least we have it. And so why would we risk anything when the chances of there being something better are so small anyway? Naomi and Ruth find themselves at this place at the beginning of Ruth chapter 3. Just a quick recap on what's happened in the first two acts of this story. Naomi left Bethlehem in Israel and went to Moab, kind of the enemy of where she had grown up. But it was a place that when Israel was in famine and had no food, at least there was something to eat. So she went there with her husband and her two sons, and the sons started to get married. They tried to put down roots, but eventually her husband died, her two sons died. There was no children. And so these three women were left very vulnerable and very at risk. And so she heard that the famine was over in her hometown, and she went to go back. And one of the daughters-in-law went back with much tears to her own family, but Ruth would not go away. Naomi's people would be her people. Naomi's God would be her God. And so they traveled together back to Bethlehem. And there, they still had no protection. They still had no land, no income, no future because they had no family and no kids, no legacy. But Ruth added the extra element of being a hated immigrant from a land that they weren't supposed to be interacting with. And yet they found relief one day when Ruth went out to the fields to glean behind the harvesters. And she just so happened upon the land of Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's. And he showed her incredible kindness. And made sure that they weren't starving for a while. And while they weren't starving, it wasn't like life was suddenly purposeful or good. They still had no real legacy, no home, no future. They just had a little bit of food and comfort that they could lose or risk losing if they were to do something different. But Naomi had a plan to do something about this situation. Ruth, mother-in-law Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he's lying. Then go, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what to do." "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. So how will Boaz respond? Because basically, this is going to be a wedding proposal from the woman without a ring or a dowry or anything else. So what is he going to do when this happens? So when Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than the which you have shown earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who's more closely related than I. Stay here for the night. In the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he's not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, "No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor." He also said, "Bring me the shawl you're wearing and hold it out." And when she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her. And then he went back to town. So what exactly actually is happening here? Because I'll be honest, this whole thing with the feet and the redeemers and all that stuff, this isn't something that I have in my own experience. I haven't seen it in a Hallmark movie. So what exactly is going on? Well, Boaz is here as the guardian redeemer. That's how he's identified in the story. God's way of providing for the most vulnerable in society were guardian redeemers, where somebody who was close to you in the family had the duty of making sure that there was still a home and a legacy for you, which usually involved buying back your land if it had been lost, and also ensuring that the family continues, if you catch my drift. In this case, marriage. Ruth is the one who needs redemption. She and Naomi are lost, they are homeless, they do not have a future. And so she comes to initiate that relationship with Boaz on Naomi's prompting. In other words, she is literally proposing to him by uncovering his feet in the middle of the night. She wants to ask Boaz to bless them beyond what he has already done. And to do that, she has to do one thing. She has to make herself vulnerable. So So she goes down by his feet, which is not a euphemism here, like some might say. It's just feet. And she shows the honor of her intentions, not by curling up close with him where things could maybe happen, but by putting her head under his feet, literally showing this position that she wants to place herself in beneath him. It's a position that leaves her with no power. When he wakes up and sees her, he could completely ignore her. He could call it out and wake up other people there and ruin her reputation as who is this woman from this foreign country that comes to seduce our men in the middle of the night. He could have taken advantage of her. He could have beaten her. Someone else could have spotted her and done either of those things. Or he could even have just politely declined and said, "This is very nice, but I'm not feeling it." And yet, it is only by making herself vulnerable, it is only by putting down any defenses she has, putting down any guard that she might be carrying with her, that redemption can enter into her life. Even though it puts at risk the little bit that she does have, she has to be willing to put all of that down in order for redemption to show up. And Boaz's response to her vulnerability is grateful action, that he will make it happen. And he would do it in a way that not only protects her honor, like making sure that she's safe and then can get away before anybody sees her, so the rumors don't have to fly, and he will make sure that she has what she needs and fills her shawl with food to make it through the next few days. There's another level, even deeper, in this beautiful story. In the book of Ruth, Boaz serves as kind of Christ figure, this redeemer. And Ruth then symbolizes all of us who long for a deeper relationship with Christ, all of us searching for redemption. So if you are feeling lost, if you are broken, if you have hopelessness, if you just long for more of him, then Ruth is you in the story. And redemption here isn't just the buying back of something. Redemption is restoring. It is fulfilling. It is transforming. It takes the things that are broken and ugly and hideous and turns them into something beautiful. It takes the things that are shattered and makes them whole. It takes the things that are turned in the wrong direction or dirty or filthy and cleans them up and points them where they're supposed to go. And this redemption, just like for Ruth, only shows up in our lives when we're willing to make ourselves vulnerable. And so the challenge for us, people who have maybe a little bit to lose every once in a while, is if we are willing to be vulnerable before Jesus, or will we be defensive before Jesus? Which sounds crazy, but as human beings, we have been defensive before God since Adam and Eve. Instead of owning their failures when they finally disobeyed God and took some of the apple, they just passed the blame and pointed fingers to try and get the shame and the filthiness off of them. They were super, super defensive. Like, we've already ruined enough. Maybe we can stop this from ruining any more and push it out somewhere else, because we can't figure out what to do if we lose even more than we already have. We do this all the time. How many of you have been known to hide your hang-ups and your struggles? We hide them behind smiles. We hide them behind closed doors and incognito browsing tabs. We hide them by acting like everything is fine and putting attention somewhere else. And if it doesn't work enough and it starts to get too big and too scary, we'll just hide it by withdrawing, where nobody gets close because the defensive walls are so far out in front. Sometimes we sing and pray the loudest when doubt is rocking our faith. Because if we're vulnerable, all that tenderness, all that unattractiveness, all that painfulness is exposed. And yet, it might be exposed in order to get healed, but it also could be exposed in order to be pushed on and beaten on and attacked and used against us in even more painful ways. And then I think sometimes we're defensive because we realize we're like Ruth in other ways too, and we can't pay for the redemption we seek. She didn't have any money. There was no prestige in what she was doing. There was no pedigree that you could kind of bring along and say, hey, at least you're marrying into this family. None of that was there, and yet she was still asking for something. I think sometimes we do that too with our relationship with God. Now, currently, my daughter works at Busch Gardens. We go there a lot, and they have this thing going on in the summer. When you use your ticket to scan in as a pass member, you get a little ticket back. And if you collect enough tickets, you get certain prizes like popcorn, a meal, merchandise, all kinds of stuff. So we've been collecting our tickets, getting ready to get something bigger so we can cash them in. I think sometimes we are treating our relationship with God that way. We think if we can just collect enough tickets, if I just show up and get my ticket every time I show up to church, if I can get a ticket every time I open up my Bible or open up the app and read a verse, if I get a ticket for every $1 I give to the guy on the corner, every time I say God bless you, every time I say Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays, I get a ticket. And if I could just get enough tickets, then maybe I could cash them in to God to get the redemption that I need. And the problem is, we are so broken. We are so hurt. We have done so much that there is no way we could ever get enough tickets collected to cash them in for what we're asking for. Which might be why some of us hold back from asking. We hold back from God because we think, I just have to get it together first. If I can just get rid of that one sin, that one habit, then I'll be able to come to Jesus and maybe it'll be good enough for Him to welcome me in. If I can just stop that one thing. But some of us realize, and maybe that's why we say way too, we've done too much. And because we feel unlovable, and we feel hopeless, and we feel so lost, why would we ever even come and ask for redemption in the first place? Why would we ever make ourselves vulnerable where even more could be taken from us than we've already offered? At least we have something familiar now. And what would we do if even that was gone? The issue is that we also have something else about us that's like Ruth. We only have one thing to offer. We have our faith and we have ourselves. We have our faith that we will trust that the one we give our lives to will be faithful to us, is able to do what we're asking, and is of the kind of character that He will not take advantage of our openness and our vulnerability, but will use that to welcome us in and bring us home. And so we put our lives down before Him. Did you catch that? God is not a lucky charm that we get to carry around and say, now redemption will come. It doesn't work that way. He is the one that we give ourselves to. And then we see how redemption flows out of that. Redemption comes through vulnerability. If you want it, that's where you have to be willing to go. My friend grew up in an old order Mennonite house and was hurt, as we all are, big guy life growing up, to the point where she eventually ran away, became addicted to drugs and alcohol, and to rebel against her family, she started becoming a hairdresser. Because when you're not supposed to cut your hair, that's something you do to fight back. In the midst of all of this, she became completely estranged from her family and cut off from them and everything she knew. And working through these things she had found, she was hoping that freedom would come. She was hoping that healing would come. But instead, more brokenness showed up, more hurt came, and she ended up where she did not want to be. But she was scared to risk anything, because what if she would lose even the little bit that she did have? Until one day, she reached the point where she was willing to be vulnerable. Not just with God, but with herself. That she did not feel like she was lovable, like she did not feel worthy of any forgiveness, and she felt completely broken. And it was there in that place that Jesus found her, and redemption began to kick off in her life. This is a redemption that kept going and took her from a drug-addicted hairdresser to being called to be a pastor, which was really hard for someone from her history, because not only was she got all this baggage that she carried, but then growing up, this would have been anathema. It would have been heresy for people in her family, and it caused estrangement still. And yet she was willing to be vulnerable, say, whatever happens, God, because of what you've already done for me, I'm going to trust you and keep going. And redemption kept following her. It drew her deeper and deeper until she reached a point in her life where she felt like she wanted more but didn't know what to do. And an opportunity came to help other people through recovery. And she goes, oh, I've been through that. Let me help them. And she got into the program. And some of the first steps of the program require you to be brutally honest with yourself, which requires, you guessed it, vulnerability. And in that place of vulnerability, she began to see all of the things that had shown up and gone between her and Jesus. Yeah, she'd been sober from the drugs and alcohol, but there were still other things. Pleasing people, giving in, wanting to be liked, that had gotten in the way. And as she was willing to admit that, not just to herself, but in a group of others seeking healing, Jesus moved and began to set her free again. And she's known this so many times that now she goes everywhere she can and letting people know, if you will be real and if you will be vulnerable before God, He will meet you there. And it doesn't matter where you are in your relationship with Him. It doesn't matter how close you feel or how far you feel. If you want to get deeper into it, if you want redemption to come and make things whole and bring healing and fix what is broken and give abundant life where you are right now, vulnerability before Him will do it. And He won't see you as coming and groveling. He will see it as you coming and offering to Him and offering the greatest gift you can give, yourself, giving it to the one who has already proved His love for you by being willing to come and die that you might have life. Father, I pray that as we look at the broken places in our lives, that we would not simply be defensive all the time, but we would be willing to be vulnerable for you, to lay down our shields and our guard, to be real with ourselves and with you about who we really are and what we're really going through, that you might bring redemption to that very place in our lives, that we might find that home and healing and life is on the other side of that risk, and it is at your feet. We pray these things in your name.